Nigeria's average retail petrol price soared to 1,037 naira 66 kobo per litre in June 2025, marking a 38.3% year-on-year increase according to the National Bureau of Statistics, reflecting continued pressure on consumers nationwide. Meanwhile, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company has firmly dismissed speculation about selling the troubled Port Harcourt Refinery, signaling a commitment to completing its high-grade rehabilitation instead. These developments spotlight key challenges in Nigeria's downstream fuel market and refinery policy. Bolarinwa Durojaiye, oil and gas technologist, joins me now for the conversation. Good morning and great to have you in.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I mean, considering, first of all, the people who are going to have, the consumers who are going to have to purchase at such high prices, what does this mean for the everyday Nigerians, especially minimum wage earners on 30,000 naira monthly salary? How are they going to cope with the ripple effects of a hike in petrol and diesel prices?
It's always a tough question to answer. But the truth is that the pump price in a deregulated arrangement that we have now is what it is. The pump prices will reflect the global price of the feedstock product, which is crude oil. And there's a sense in which it is what it is. Subsidy is gone, and we will now be seeing cost-reflective prices. We have started to see that. And elevated prices are a direct reflection of exactly that, the global crude oil prices. You can't eat your cake and have it. It is not going to be easy for the man on the street, definitely. But like I have always advocated, one of the things that the government really needs to focus on now is how to move people efficiently from point A to point B. Efficiently here with a focus on mass transportation. If many people are sharing one vehicle, the unit cost to each of them will be reduced. And by extension, the effect of things like rising pump prices, I mean, it will still be there, but it won't be as much as when you're forced to drive your own car, if you have a car. Yeah.
And do you reckon the government can perhaps even truly justify a 38.3% jump in fuel prices year on year without also putting social cushioning measures in place for low-income households?
Absolutely, and like a lot of people will tell you, one of the things that we believe is either missing or insufficiently applied in some of these tough reforms that this administration has brought is these social safety nets. And I just described one. If we're going to start to see cost-reflective pricing at the fuel pump, then we need to find a way to protect the commuter, the normal, everyday man on the street. And my approach to that, the way I see that, is that you need to make public transportation work. You need to formulate some sort of social safety net that makes it easy for people to use public transportation. It's a bit of a conundrum, and because what you have here is a transportation system that is operated and driven primarily by the private sector, as should be. And on the other hand, you have a situation, where when the private sector runs something, they run it for profit. And the outcome of that is going to be high fare prices, essentially high transport fares, which is exactly what we're talking about. How to solve this really is that the government needs to get really creative. We need to have a very, very rigorous public-private sector engagement where, I'm trying not to use the word too soon, but where we can find a way to soften the blow on transport fares in a very, very direct way. in a way that hits individual pockets directly. The technology is available for this already. We have NIN, we have BVN. There are ways in which we can subsidize the use of public transport for the common man. If we do this efficiently, I'm less worried, about swings in petrol pump prices, for people who own cars. People who own cars in Nigeria are a tiny minority of the population, and we shouldn't prioritize them in these conversations. That's my view.
And I mean, coming to the difference in prices across board, why are states like Jigawa, for example, paying 1,225 naira, Lagos to quite a high price? The difference across board, and especially some of these inner states, right, the poorer states, right, we're seeing that uneven distribution. What do you think can be done to intervene in such scenarios? Do regulators need to play a role here so that we can see some sort of cross, and I'm careful to use the word, but cross subsidy, right, to balance and even prices out across Nigeria?
It's a great question. In the days of subsidy, they used to have this petrol equalization fund or something like that, where essentially what you're describing. But we have a deregulated system now. And I will say, that this price disparity across different regions is not strange. It's not just Nigeria. Any country that does not have extremely advanced and well-developed supply distribution infrastructure, this is what happens, because if the product is being imported, it comes through the coast, the coastal area, and then you need to truck it to inland areas. In this case, which we're moving towards, we're refining it ourselves. It's still at the refinery at one coastal location. You still need to get the product to far inland. So there's a sense in which you will never have the same prices across board, not even in advanced countries. I mean, you can check. The question here is, how much disparity is healthy, or should we target? And the answer is that we need to toughen and make more robust our supply and distribution infrastructure. We need more pipelines, and we need more viable rail infrastructure that can get this product to where it should be. We also need more storage infrastructure, especially up north. If you check the distribution of our storage tanks, our large capacity storage tanks, you will find a disproportionate distribution towards the south, southwest, southeast area. So these are the things that need. They're not quick fixes. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but that's how to solve the problem. But generally, like I said, you will never have zero disparity. It's not possible.
Okay, all right. We will be following that development, and do stay with us. After this break, we'll get into the Port Harcourt Refinery and what is being done around that, especially as regards ownership. Stay with us. You're still watching Business Edge. You're still watching Business Edge, and of course we have talked on the increase in diesel and petrol prices across board. We do have Bolarinwa Durojaiye. He has been providing some perspective. Thank you for staying with us. Now we're moving on to the refineries, and there has been a lot of conversation around the state-owned refineries and ownership. Recall that a couple of weeks back, we had the group CEO mention that sale is not, or is on the table. Now there have been clarifications that specifically Port Harcourt Refinery isn't for sale, but rather they'll be putting it up for high-end, high-level rehabilitation. The word rehabilitation, we've been hearing that word for several years now within the refinery sector. Give us a picture of how you're receiving word of this news of Port Harcourt Refinery remaining in the hands of the government.
It's a really tough question to answer, to be honest. I mean, we are all Nigerians. We know the history of this refinery, and all of the funds that have been expended in turnaround maintenance and all sorts of activities. I mean, in the last 4 years, $1.5 billion have been spent, or that's what has been reported to have been spent. And we still do not have a functional and operational refinery. However, I mean, the latest news is that the group CEO has said a sale is not on the horizon. In considering the situation, you want to kind of ask, okay, so an outright sale is not on the horizon. Is a part divestment or some sort of public-private partnership or operatorship agreement, is that going to be considered? I guess the jury is out on that. And then there's the larger picture, of a possible listing of the NNPC, in which case, the entity that holds this asset in and of itself is being publicly listed. So you may not sell the asset outright, but you may list the holding company. And then, so it's a lot to analyze, it's a lot to talk about. But we won't know until we know, pretty much. There is a lot of skepticism generally about this decision, because a lot of people would just think, let's just sell this thing and get it over and done with. The two plants that comprise what we call the Port Harcourt Refinery. One of them was built in 1965, the other one 1989. They're pretty old, but again, in other countries of the world, you find industrial facilities that are even older than this, and are still working.
Yes, but those refineries have been, would say, properly maintained. As regards these refineries, have they churned out refined petroleum? How long ago did we see refined petroleum come out of these refineries, and what are the prospects of, the same hands? Well, I wouldn't particularly say the same hands, so perhaps that brings us to the next question. Relatively new board group leadership of the NNPCL, will they, or is there confidence in them making a difference with the performance of these refineries that have been for long tagged moribund?
It's a tough question to answer, to be honest. When the new leadership, and the board of the NNPC was recently constituted, there's a lot of positive response in the industry and in the nation generally. So I would say there is a high level of confidence in the capacity and the ability of this new leadership to effect different outcomes from what we've seen so far. And maybe that's what's going on here. Maybe there's just that level of confidence internally that we're going to get it right this time. We're not done with the existing exercise, the rehabilitation exercise. Let's finish it first and let's get it right. So really, it's a question of let's wait and see. It hasn't worked before, but it can work this time or not.
Or not. All right. A balanced perspective there. $23 million or so down the drain in terms, billion, I beg your pardon, down the drain in terms of rehabilitation across board with the refineries. We had Aliko Dangote not so long ago come out to say that if one of these refineries goes for $200 million for scrap, I mean, that's the most that you can get out of them in terms of a sale. But now it's a possibility that with proper rehabilitation, we could keep that as state-owned. What are your thoughts on Aliko Dangote's, thoughts as regards the value of these refineries, even if it was up for sale? And would you say that may have informed their decision to retain ownership?
It's a possibility. How assets are valued is not something that we'll discuss on this show now. You're talking all sorts of things: net present value, distributed cash flow analysis, discounted cash flow analysis, and all of that. But there is a key thing to note, though. Sometimes some of these decisions are made, from a national strategic viewpoint, in the sense that, we want to hold this asset as a national asset that can potentially deliver value over a long period of time. And then when you look, at the backdrop of all the current concerns about the scale of the Dangote refinery, the fears that, it becomes a single point of failure and all of that, all these things kind of feed into that perspective that, okay, let's hold this as a national asset, and keep it essentially. Many times the value that you will get if you want to sell the asset right now may not necessarily reflect a best case or even a medium case scenario of if you're able to get it to work and deliver cash flows in a mid to long term scenario. So a lot of dynamics and a lot of variables in play. But it's very important to note that sometimes decisions are made on the basis of, strategic national interests, not just pure economics or pure investment considerations.
Right, and some will interpret that as a sentimental decision rather than a business decision. And obviously there's that ongoing debate whether or not the government has any business being in business, but we can have that debate some other time. But let's stick with the conversation and, a refinery that has proven to work, Dangote Refinery. What role, will the Dangote Refinery now play in breaking the cycle of import dependence? Will it actually reduce? Do you see it potentially reducing the pump price that, we're seeing today of 1,000 naira plus?
So this conversation has gone on for a long time, even before the Dangote Refinery came on stream. In my view, pump price reduction is the lesser benefit if we get it of being able to refine locally and domestically. The bigger benefit is, one, the signaling that Nigeria is a serious country capable of executing in an industrial project of that size and scale and efficiency and quality. That's the most important thing. The second thing, obviously, the fact that, especially marrying the availability of that capacity with the fact that you can get your crude stock next door, literally, and you can get it in your own currency. Very, very important. Very important that sale, that exchange is happening in Naira and not in dollars. And huge ramifications, for the larger FX demand picture. So those are the benefits. The whole pump price thing, I think that it's an unfortunate fixation. It's real in the sense that it impacts demand on the street, but like I have mentioned earlier, we should approach that in a more holistic manner by promoting public transport, mass transport. Let's not be trying to optimize for getting petrol to be as cheap as possible for people driving individual cars. No, let's try and make sure the mass majority of Nigerians can get from point A to point B en masse. Okay, and then let's stop this fixation on pump prices. It's unhealthy in my opinion, and let's look to more strategic gains and more macro positive outcomes from this.
All right, we'll see how that goes. And to turn our attention and to tie the conversation together with this Port Harcourt refinery staying in state hands. We know that it's taxpayers' money that will go into this rehabilitation. As a taxpayer yourself, I assume, what do you reckon are the sentiments around pumping in more money to a refinery that has not worked for a long time and it being managed by the same hands?
It's a tough question. It's a tough question. But what I will say is I will probably not use the word sentiment. It's not a sentimental decision. It's being positioned as a strategic decision. And sometimes countries take decisions, out of strategic national interest. So for instance, I don't want to take the conversation too much in that direction. The whole thing about tariffs and the trade wars with the US now, a lot of those products, if you were to follow the whole comparative advantage thing and traditional economics, really and truly, let the products in. It'll be cheaper for everybody to buy and everybody's happy. But the country is determining and discovering that, look, it is not in our continued national interest, to be completely dependent on China or on this other country or whatever. And sometimes countries do things out of strategic national interest that may not necessarily translate to the most short-term benefit in terms of things like price. It happens. The important thing in this case is that we need to be sure that the benefits of this, call it a sacrifice, are real and that they will be realized and enjoyed by Nigerians
Right.
10, 20 years down the line.
Yeah, hopefully it's our money, it's our investments, and we see the dividend in time to come. Thank you so much for your perspective, Bolarinwa Durojaiye, oil and gas technologist.